Perfect.
Welcome to my political party.
Yes. Hi folks, my name is Brisa Areli Muñoz, and I'm the Director of Artistic Innovation and Emergent Magic here at MTF, and I'm joined by fellow Artistic Circle member Brandon Powers. Really excited to talk about this next theme that we have coming up that is fast forwarding to a world where artists are valuable across every sector in society, and the sector that we're zooming into is technology. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you because this is your bread and butter. This is your expertise. You have for so many years been playing around with this intersection. So would love to just start off by introducing audiences to the ways in which you're excited about blending these forms.
Sure. Yeah, it's very much my favorite thing to talk about. So we'll hopefully have some fun here. With my background coming from the theater and dance world, and I was making a lot of work about technology, and then slowly over time the form started to also mirror the themes as well. And earlier on in my career, I had some really key impactful moments where other artists and other folks from actually the technology sector looked to me as an artist. And they said, hey, you have a lot of value to our conversation. It's a part of a hackathon that was at MIT. And that was the first time I ever built a mixed reality project. And I was just in a group full of people who had completely different backgrounds. And it was so empowering to see how my expertise as a director and choreographer was able to help us build this physical therapy tool that would also help people, move better by merging together gaming techniques and physical therapy. And I was able to design the gestures you do because I was able to help take care of someone's body, right? And that was this huge moment where, and I think really I was seeing that change. And I think also a huge moment that it's a great example of fast forward, right? And what we're trying to do and showcase how these skills that artists have are applicable to not just theater and performance making and event making, but in all these different places because we have so many different skills that we can use.
Brandon, tell us a little bit about your artistry in relationship to artistic practice and technology.
Yeah, so I am very passionate about this intersection of performance and technology. And it's been, I like to describe it as like a slippery slope over the last 10 plus years because it all makes a lot of sense, actually, when we think about the things that I'm obsessed with and love. And I look back on even when I was a kid being obsessed with magic and theme park rides and being like, oh, that's what I'm making now. I'm making magical theme park rides, but maybe in a headset. That's kind of where the aesthetics are. So it really started with my training in, classical, modern, and musical theater, and hip hop, and contemporary dance merging together then with a little bit of devised theater, and studying directing and choreography. And this really impactful moment for me was when I had a collaboration my senior year of college at Northwestern, where I was in conversation with someone from the engineering school, a graduate student actually, and we were working together on this project where we were creating a theatrical experience for Google Glass, because that's what was cool then, or what was attempting to be cool. And it was this really cool experiment where we were trying to find ways to do really early AI work where we were scraping different websites for text in order to create scripts, which would then show in the actors' eyes in their glasses, which they would recite live on stage. So they didn't know what their lines were going to be. And my job was to kind of be this director dramaturg, right? And this is the beginning of this idea of how I'm sitting in this, technological dramaturg role. And I had to think about, what is the moment we need here to tell the story? If we're doing Romeo and Juliet, for example, right? the prologue, right? We need text that is getting at a conflict somewhere.
Yeah.
There's rival factions. Pull that from Reddit or Yahoo Answers, right? Because that's what we're using at the time.
Yeah.
And that was like a really big light bulb moment for me, because I understood that my skills as a director choreographer were so much more expansive than like creating stage works. And that I was a really big systems thinker.
Yeah.
And that I had a skill set that applied in multiple different situations. And I think that is a big part of what we're trying to do here with this programming, and trying to do with our artists. And we're working with a lot of artists who are beginning and having those relationships with their practice. And so I had that really impactful moment. Then I started to work on lots of different types of projects, in very different scenarios. I did work with Woodshed Collective, the amazing immersive theater company. I was creating work in, various different theaters. I started leading workshops at this intersection of technology and performance, and helping folks understand, how they can implement it, in their work. Last year, I was a part of the Lincoln Center Collider Fellowship, which is their new residency for artists exploring this intersection of performance and technology. That was an unbelievable opportunity to dig deep into my artistic practice and try a bunch of things I've wanted to try for a very long time. And I think the work I made there is a good example of the wide variety of ways my practice and work manifest, because there I made a experience that merges together Fortnite, Twitch live streaming, and classical Greek theater. And it's wild and crazy and a lot of fun. Then I also created a site-specific augmented reality experience on the plaza of Lincoln Center that was in collaboration with the Performing Arts Library there, where you would walk around and see on the buildings these archives from the library, and then there would be live dancers creating like reflections of that movement. And then it ended with me in my final project creating this new choreography tool that I'm hope is going to really support the pre-production process for choreographers and help them visualize large-scale dances. So that kind of gives you an idea of all the different things I play with, and I'm really passionate about building them, and then helping other artists along the way, because I feel like I was really supported in these early moments by amazing mentors and collaborators, and they told me like, you matter in this space, we need you in this space. And so now I really want to help other artists and say like, we really need you in this space, like, let's go. It's happening now. It's not some distant 10-year thing. I think that's a big misconception about this space, is that, the idea of technology in the theater, and theater is so slow and okay, This work is happening now. This work is very popular in other places that are not the United States of America. It's very well funded in Canada, specifically Montreal even. It's really well funded in England. It's really well funded in France. It's really well funded in Asia, specifically South Korea and Taiwan. And audiences love it, especially in that region. There is work of live performance and theater and musical storytelling happening there, that people are paying tickets to go see, and then it doesn't come here to the States because we don't have that level of infrastructure from our government to support that work. And so we really have to rely on the other members of, our nonprofit, collaborators, investors, etc., to say this isn't work that is 5-10 years from now. This work is already making money and is amazing and artistically fulfilling and asking challenging questions like now. And we're actually late to the party. And I want to do everything I can to help bring our artists and our new artists that will come join us, and ultimately like our country, up to the rest of the world, because I feel very strongly that we are like seeding the future of entertainment to the rest of the world. And as Americans, we're always, have been used to being like the great exporters, when we have this idea of like Hollywood and entertainment, like it'll always be us. But I really believe that's about to change, and it is changing. And if we want to continue to, share work and share our stories with people, we should adapt the way we tell them as well.
Yeah. I think what's really evident is the ways in which you serve as this bridge or this translator between the forms, because as someone for whom is still learning from you and through you about this intersection, I want to take it back a bit for audiences, because you said things like hackathon.
Yeah,
You
a bunch
said
of language.
mixed reality, and you said extended reality. So I'm curious, can we start by breaking down some of these words and how they inform the work that we're doing?
Absolutely. Even as I was saying it, I was like, oh, I think we should talk about the definitions. So I'm glad you prompted for it. Yeah, a key part of working across these sectors, and a key part of my work that I'm passionate about is this translation. So when we say extended reality, we are referring to this umbrella term, essentially, of virtual reality, mixed reality, and augmented reality. Virtual reality is what we're accustomed to seeing in like a headset, right? A fully virtual environment. Then we have augmented reality, which is digital objects seen in physical space. So think of it like your phone, the IKEA app. You put the couch, in your house, and it looks like the couch is actually there. Or Pokemon Go is always the really obvious example.
Yeah.
And then mixed reality is this kind of in between where the objects actually seem to inform and be connected to your physical space. So it'd be like, we would have something right here talking and physically relating to us, or the couch. And so all of those things together we refer to as extended reality, or XR for short.
Got it.
Then we also talked about a hackathon.
Mm-hmm.
And so a hackathon is a popular event and term in the tech space, where it's just a bunch of people making something really fast. So, and just moving fast and trying to just create new solutions, and not knowing what's going to happen, and just living in that moment of just like, go, go, go. I feel like so many people in the theatrical ecosystem just live that way.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that sense of play and discovery actually makes a lot of sense for artists. And it can be a really great model for us to play in, which is then ultimately why we created a program that is kind of using that similar model, which we'll talk about. And so that's kind of what a hackathon is. And then what are we all saying?
Yeah, no, you got it. You got it. It was extended reality, mixed reality, and a hackathon. And it's interesting that you're talking about the ways in which it translates so easily to us as artists, because you've been here at MTF for a while, and you have created programs in its history that have done similar things, which is like the opportunity to just like put things up very quickly. And it feels like that sounds like what a hackathon is as well. And so it's been so fun to see the ways in which you've created programs that were solely looking through the lens of musical theater writers, creators, makers, and then also doing this work in technology, and the ways in which this program was birthed through your support of MTFxR. So if we were to look at MTFxR for a second, how would you describe the work that we're doing here, with technology?
Yeah, so MTFxR is what we call our specialized educational and development program focused on this exploration of immersive technology and performance. And so we are really focused on how we can introduce artists to these technologies, that we were starting to define across the board. And then how we can give them the space to discover them and play with them and be hands-on with them, which I think is a huge gap that was always missing in our space, and give them this sandbox to play and, not be worried about the end product, which is so connected to our roots as an organization, and our original mission statement, right? And so we now get to provide artists with this resource to discover and learn more about the technology. And it's a really exciting opportunity to kind of be at the helm of this specific program, because it is the only one of its kind in our country, which is wild to say. I wish there were more that are focused on XR and musical storytelling. We just don't have a lot of that support here in the States. And it really is a program that is something that I wanted as an artist, right? And so basically anything I felt like I was looking for, we've built in, and the real inception of it was talking to our leadership at the time, about 6 years ago. And I was having conversations with multiple different organizations. I was working here at MTF, but I was teaching all these workshops, talking with these other institutions, and everyone was beginning to think about, oh, immersive tech, XR, like, we think we should be doing something with this. And I was just like, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? And the leadership here at MTF said, we'll just do it. If all these very large organizations are too scared and not agile enough, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's put us in this really amazing position where we've now supported the creation and development of all these amazing prototypes for a wide array of shows that are in different places in their life cycle.
Hello, hello, hello. This is AriDy Knox, and I am co-executive director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically the director of Decolonization and Sustainability. And I am coming at you to remind you to subscribe to The Vibe. The Vibe is to get all of the information you could possibly desire about the Musical Theater Factory community. We let you know what our artists are doing in the world. We let you know what they're doing in our home, in our community base, and it has lots of tips and tricks and links to help you further your career, whether you're a director, an actor, a writer, or just an audience member who wants to stay plugged in. If you want to be tapped into all things amazing in New York, especially within NTF, subscribe to The Vibe.
Yeah, and there are a couple of things that I think are core to this methodology, which is thinking about, number one, thinking about technology as a dramaturgical tool, and then thinking about technology as a liberatory tool. So can we first start by talking about the dramaturgy part? What do you mean when we say that technology can be a dramaturgical tool for artists and their music theater works?
Yeah, a huge part of the work that we do here is focused on how the technology is seen as something that is supporting the storytelling, right? It's not, oh, this would just be cool if it flashed on stage, or it would be cool, we're doing this in VR because it's cool, and we want to make a VR play. It's, here's a specific piece that is about a certain topic, and so therefore we need to show the audience this in some way. So, one example is a piece that we have, worked on development for, and we're going to hear more from, in a later episode, by Germano Toussaint, called The Last Gatekeeper. And in that experience, you kind of witness these ancestors come and speak to one of the main characters in the show. And we explored all of these different ways to bring that ancestor to life through exploration here at MTF. And that is really great example of how we were trying to figure out what is the right tool, right? And how can this tool make the story make more sense and actually allow the story to unfold and continue. And we got to discover a lot of really great things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the example. I feel like it helps to concretize us as listeners as to what does this really look like in practice? And then, we hear a whole bunch about technology and the ways in which people are fearful of it or scared of it, or all of a sudden this feels like it's actually the antithesis of live theatrical performance, So now, as we think about technology as a liberatory tool, there are so many folks who talk about how social media is the death of us and technology and AI is going to take over and we're terrified. And so I'm curious, how do you think about technology as a liberatory tool as opposed to an oppressive force?
Yeah, I believe very strongly that all people, but especially artists, have a responsibility to learn more about the technology that is becoming ever more present in our world, and to make rigorous decisions about it for themselves, and then to decide how they're going to challenge the way it's being used in the world. And I think artists especially are primed to ask the right questions, and we're also primed to provide some really fantastic answers that many other folks might not actually be thinking of, right? Because we are already trained in probing in that specific type of way, and thinking outside the box, and trying to find new structures and, ways of looking at a challenge. And so this idea of technology as a liberatory tool, or as our founder, once said to me, she said, "Oh, it's a tool for the revolution," amazing founder Shakina Nafak. And when she said that to me, I was like, yes, that is exactly what we're doing here. It's really important that artists are a part of the conversations with tech, and that they don't cede their power in utilizing it. Because if they do, and if we do, other potentially very bad actors are going to use that technology in ways that we don't want.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we're imagining all these worst case scenarios, that's actually what's going to happen if we cede our power. Right. And so if we don't want that to happen, the way to combat that is to get involved, just like with any other protest,
Yes.
right? Or social movement.
Yeah.
And how do you get involved? It starts with listening and education.
Yeah.
And so I think what we do here at MTF, and specifically thinking about technology, is I'm listening to the artist about their curiosity, and then we educate them.
Yeah.
Right. And we have this conversation, and we say, what are we looking to explore?
Yeah.
Right. What stories do you want to tell? How can this technology supercharge your creativity? And see all sorts of new possibilities for the form of your work. And you may leave our conversations, our early conversations we call our XR dates colloquially. It's like your first touch of exploring technology. You come to our studio and we just try on a bunch of headsets and try a bunch of experiences, because that's just a thing with very limited access, actually, unless you pay a big badge to go to Tribeca Film Festival or Sundance or whatever. And so I want to bring that to you as the artist, and that's where it all begins. And then we can go deeper with them.
Yeah, I'm curious about, when you take an artist on an XR date, right? They decide, okay, so I'm curious in what and how technology could be a tool, for my work. I'm curious about what the reception has been of artists who were technology curious and then they go on an XR date with you. What have been some responses to what they learned through that process with you?
Yeah, honestly, the response is really overwhelmingly positive, which I think to some people might be surprising. And I don't have an agenda in those conversations of being like, and now this is what you're going to do, and it's going to be all your work, right? It doesn't have to be. I always say to folks, hey, just give it a try. You may want to never work with this again, but at least you know it exists, right? Because it feels like the worlds aren't quite overlapping, and I'm also feel like I'm constantly like wearing lots of hats and code switching and being like, oh, I'm on this immersive experiential circuit with all these people over here, and there's all these wild things happening with all these technologies, and then all these amazing storytelling artists have no idea that it's happening, and I'm constantly trying to be like, hey, we need you to write your really good writing over here, because the writing over here is actually not so good sometimes, right? And these two people don't talk to each other, and it's like, hey, we have amazing writers. You don't need to just make it up,
Yeah.
And what I love actually so much about the immersive tech space, and what I often say is that everyone in the immersive tech space is like an orphan, right? We come from another industry because it's so new. And I find that so fun because we get to talk to people from so many different backgrounds, right? I have, collaborators who have worked, in marketing and advertising, in architecture, in theater and dance, are engineers, who are fire spinners. It's like amazing to see all of that vibrancy.
Yeah.
And that's what I think can get people really excited about that space.
Yeah.
And so when we come into these dates, we have these really positive experiences, and it's just really inspiring to just see the like literal light go off in people's head. Like I have captured so many great photos from these experiences of
what's
like
possible.
Like literally at the last date I had with one of our makers, Michelle Rocket, they're literally like, and we're like, oh, everyone's gonna think this is a staged photo. They're like holding an iPad and watching it and like their jaws dropping, but it was real. So they're like, oh my God, I'm watching this amazing augmented reality music video.
Yeah.
And you just don't know that that's possible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's great.
What this makes me think of, you were talking about also the distinct relationship between the artist, creator, writer, songwriter, and the creative technologist. And I'm thinking about one of the initiatives that we've also enacted via MTFxR, which is our garage experience. And so can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was and has been, and how it places the creative technologists in conversation with our musical theater creators?
Yeah, so I was really inspired by my experience, at a hackathon, and also always was excited by maybe, and other people loved these like 24-hour musical festivals, and we even did our own version of that here at MTF. And I also, really want to just give more people opportunities to play and try things. And that really feels like it's at the center of the spirit of what we do here. And so we wanted to adopt this model where we could bring together a group of artists and creative technologists and say, hey, we're going to give you the time and space to, over the course of about like 5 days, just make something new. And at the end, you're going to have something to show, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, super polished or anything, but what is it like to attempt to create something that is finished for the moment, that has some semblance of a beginning, middle, and end, that like isn't an excerpt from a piece, in that short time period. And what are the challenges that come up with that? We want them to hit that roadblock of like, oh, when I said this word, you thought I meant this, and when I actually meant this thing, right? Like in one of our early events that we did in this program, I like put up some slides. It was like, when you say the word script, it actually means two very different things if you're talking to an actor or you're talking to an engineer, because those words mean literally different things. And so we need to learn that. And that all happens there. And then it's a lot of fun because I get to act translator in those moments in the garage, and see kind of the synergies that form between these different collaborators. There was one piece that was made in our first version of the garage that group then continued to play with it, and then even brought it back to a later event that we hosted, which was so cool. It went from the smaller space to a much larger space.
That's right. That was Abe Boylan, who also then took it to our XR salon, where, that was so exciting to experience, like it as the prototype, and then it actually trying to be put on with audiences in a larger space. And then our second version of the garage that we had in June 2025, which we were able to produce in collaboration with NYU, which was really amazing, and we got to use their phenomenal spaces, 370 J Street here in New York City, which are like world-class, immersive, experiential studios. And we were able to put these teams together, which now were artists and technologists and students, which is really exciting, and allow them that same time and space, and to now make experiences for these very specific specialized rooms that NYU had. One was this like immersive sound room, one was a larger ballroom, and then one was like a black box, right? And saying, okay, here's your challenge with your team, make something that utilizes the tools in this room that you all feel speaks to, who you are as an artist. And then we also took the next step this year in the garage and had this summit as part of it as well, where we wanted to have conversations like the one we're having and the one that we'll continue to have, at the Fast Forward event, that is
trying to solve the challenges of this space, and specifically producing this sort of work, because I feel like there's not enough conversation that is concrete happening at that level. And as an artist, I'm, constantly pitching and trying to find ways to fit the work that I do into the boxes of these various institutions.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the institutions as this sort of translator, and I'm hearing from them they want this work, but they don't know how to fit it. And so we had this amazing conversation at the last garage where we pulled up a budget and we talked between a Broadway GM who was like an expert in like union rules, right? And an amazing director and producer of XR work. And we just made a budget for like one of the show presentations that we had. And we're like, if you were going to do this is how much it would actually cost. And we did that in live time. And that was something that I literally dreamed about for like 4 years doing here. And so it was really cool to be just like, how the hell do we do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Which then makes me think about a couple of our makers. So our makers program is a 2-year developmental residency where artists get to apply to be a part of this cohort that's then paired with our producers cohort who are being trained to be creative producers. And over the course of these 2 years, these makers get the opportunity to develop their work over time. So I'm curious just to hear the tiniest bits of the curiosities that have started to pop up from some of our current makers cohort that we will continue to explore throughout the course of, this next year and a half. I'm thinking about Kelindah and I'm thinking about Melliot. Can you tell us a little bit about just the curiosities that they've had around technology or even some of the work that they've done already with the form?
Sure. So this group of makers is really energized by this intersection, which is a lot of fun. We have, Kelindah, who's working on this work called Sea Pony, which is chronicling what like trans pregnancy is like. And so in this conversation about dramaturgical tool, right, we're like, oh, Kelindah's like, how can I help the audience understand what this feels like, or how can I actually transform my body to be what I'm kind of imagining it to be, right? This also idea of like a seahorse, right?
Yeah.
And so, we're having conversations about how augmented reality, applying these layers of reality to someone is just like exactly what we're trying to get across emotionally in the piece, right?
Yeah, it's like, what does it look like and feel like to be a trans dad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And we can, with the tech, we can attempt to put people into that feeling, right? A little bit more than just explaining it to them.
Yeah.
And, we're also exploring with one of our other artists who love to go colloquially by Melliot, this amazing pair. They've already done some really fantastic work in the like online musical space, and they're doing a lot of geocaching musicals. So musicals where you have to go to locations and like discover the songs. It's amazing and so cool. And they also have like an Emergent online musical where you solve all these clues and try to unpack things over a course of time. And they were part of the garage, and so they were beginning to explore mixed reality there. And they are going to just kind of continue to dabble in all these different forms in their various, different works together. And I'm also excited to see how we can combine, what they were doing before with some of these new tools for them.
Yeah.
So we just have lots of different folks working on, lots of different cool projects.
Yeah. I'm really excited for the ways that us diving into this theme of the intersection of art-based practice and technology is going to reveal itself over the course of these next episodes, our live conversation. I can't wait to see what we learn together. As we close, if you could speak directly to both the artists who are technology curious and also the producers who might be fearful of doing this work, what might you tell either of them?
I ultimately feel that on a very macro level, audience behavior is changing. We can think about this from that producer angle to start, right? Audience behavior is changing, and what audiences expect from their experiences is changing. And I think there's a big mistake happening in a lot of minds in our kind of landscape where it's just theater versus theater, right? And that's already kind of the scarcity mindset. It's like, oh, my show needs to do this, and this is what's happening, and we're going here, and we're going here, versus actually you're no longer just competing for the other theater. You're competing against Netflix. You're competing against TikTok. You're competing against YouTube. All of those things you're competing against Beyonce's concert.
Video
right?
games.
Video games. It's people's time, right? And how people want to spend their money. And so in my opinion, when we talk about, the American theater is dying, people don't want to come to the theater, they don't want to spend the money, I frankly look back to those people and I say, they don't want to come see what you're providing to them. And we need to find a way to change that, right? And that doesn't mean what you're doing is bad, actually. We just need to reframe the conversation and find ways to welcome these people in who actually probably feel excluded by a lot of these spaces.
Yeah.
And so one way of doing that is to integrate forms and tech that people do really love. And we see that in how much people love the immersive experiences that always are popping up that are all run and very branded,
Yep.
right? But those are run and directed by immersive theater directors. And if that can be our thoughts when we're talking about why we might want to produce this sort of work, even just from an economical standpoint, then I would, talk to the artists. And again, I would say the best way to understand this sort of work is to begin to learn about it and just play. And we here at MTF, I think, do a really good job of creating an extremely safe space for that play. Artists are typically not really well invited to these conversations. That's why we're doing it. And we're trying to lead by example in that way. And so it makes total sense that artists would bristle at it, right? Or have fear, because so much of what's being shouted at them is this idea that they're being replaced, right? Or that they don't matter. Or we're thinking about, even when we're just thinking about the economics, right? Of like how much people get paid for different types of jobs, right?
Yeah.
Here in this country.
Yeah.
So, and our government isn't supporting it or putting it on the pedestal that it deserves in comparison to so many other major countries.
Yeah.
And so I really just invite artists to have that conversation with us. And I just want to tell them that like their work matters.
Yeah.
And we need them.
Yeah.
Right? Like we need artists, because I genuinely believe that artists are going to help us solve the problems of the moment.
Yeah.
And that technology is one of the main facilitators of conversation and inspiration, and is this liberatory and revolutionary tool. And so if we want to attempt to make that change, being well-versed in this technology can really expand your voice.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I'm really excited to invite artists and producers into the conversation. If you're curious to have an XR date with Brandon, you can reach out to us. We're at mtf.nyc. We're also at MTF Musicals on Instagram. We'd love to have you come and join us in the work that we're doing, and just really excited to have this whole conversation and explore this case study of the intersection of musical storytelling and technology. Thanks so much, Brandon, for all of this.
Of course.
Excited to see what we learn.
Hey there, it's AriDy Knox, Co-Executive Director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically Director of Decolonization and Sustainability, and I am here to remind you that if anyone's got us, we got us. In this time of chaos and insanity, invest in the community that is investing in you. Invest in the We Got Us Fund, a new initiative by MTF to make sure that every single member of our community is not getting paid just a living wage, is not getting paid in exposure, exposure. It's not getting paid in promises, but it's getting paid a thriving wage. Yeah, you heard me, a thriving wage. Help us ensure that everyone in your community, everyone in our community is able to not just live, but thrive. Invest in the We Got Us Fund today.
Hey everyone, I'm Falan, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fast Forward. I am on the MTF staff as the coordinator of connectivity and systems. And if you want to stay tuned in, please like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss future episodes, upcoming releases, and live tapings. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, Marie and I'm very excited. I know, we talked about it. I told them I'd take them to a club.
23rd. Neither of us are right.
That's close. I was like, oh yeah, I can take you guys to 11, which is this crazy like club.
I'll go.
So that's
I'm
not
down.
the cool. Now the new one, the cool new one is it's called it's not called Output. It's called something like that.
We're excited.
Oh my god, you need to move to Miami.
Oh yeah, no, Andrea's such a Miami human. It's very true.
It's not.
No.
Miami is so awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.